This is the Youthful and Useful podcast by Leap Africa.
For you to, be an entrepreneur, you must first start from being an intrapreneur. There's this thing about the founder syndrome. I'm the one that knows how to do it best. It's only me that can do it this particular way. As you're starting up, you're doing almost everything yourself, and you've done it in a particular way, right? You must get to a point where you have to let go to go up. My job as a leader was identifying several vacuums. And as you are coming in, and I'm telling you as a volunteer, this is a vacuum I want you to fill. This is what are the clear objectives we want from you. I'm making the instruction as clear as possible and guiding the people through, or the person who has been delegated. Because how do we even take delegation? Delegation is not where you immediately form the orga. No. When you delegate, you are not letting go outrightly. You still have to kind of
Shared responsibility.
continue to follow up and see whether this thing is still being done, so you don't get surprised.
Hello, Africa. Welcome to another episode of Youthful and Useful podcast by Leap Africa. Leap Africa is a youth development organization that drives impact in 5 major areas: education, employability, entrepreneurship, active citizenship, mental health, and well-being. And this is another episode in the series on fundamentals of social entrepreneurship. Today, our topic is streamlined to teamwork and delegation, building effective teams for business efficiency. My name is Orelu Akinsanya, and I'm your host for today. A quote often attributed to Albert Einstein is, "We cannot solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them." And so on this episode today, I'm not here by myself. Another quote I'd like to draw reference from is one that says, "Be followers of those who through faith and patience have obtained good success." That was fine-tuned. And so I would introduce the guest I have in the studio with me today. Our guest is a leader and an award-winning social entrepreneur, an Obama leader, an Ashoka fellow, a seasoned food system activist, a community mobilizer, SDGs advocate, legal practitioner. He is a Gratitude Network fellow, a perennial fellow, Social Innovators Program fellow, and French Africa Foundation laureate. He currently serves on the Food Systems Task Force for the implementation of the National Food Systems Transformation for Nigeria. He has been profiled by Forbes magazine, Rhetoric Public Relation, and national newspapers as one of Nigeria's young social entrepreneurs. Through his work, he has raised almost $2 million in cash and food alongside 25,000 volunteers at the initiative to provide nutrition intervention, hunger relief, dietary counseling, and job placement to over 2.4 million vulnerable women and children across different underserved and far-to-reach communities in Nigeria. Join me as I specially welcome the founder of Lagos Food Bank Initiative, the largest hunger relief non-profit in Nigeria, Dr. Michael Sunbola.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, I must say.
Very welcome.
I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you so much
Very
for
well.
honoring us with your time and
Thank
honoring
you.
our invitation to share of yourself.
Very well.
All right. I'd just like to start off with a question, the elephant in the room. Your background is law, LLB law, LLM law. Why food? When did food come into the picture? What is the biggest appeal for you, or what was the biggest appeal for you to delve into food problems and solutions?
Okay, so for me, I would say that I didn't grow up to imagine myself that I'll be on this path. I have to be honest with you. But one thing is certain, like they always say there are 3 times or 3 most important time in a man's life. The day you were born, the day you
Discover your purpose.
discover your purpose. I think maybe 4, the day you get married and the day you leave this world.
Interesting.
Right. So I would say that in as much as my background has kind of prepared me to be a lawyer and a practicing lawyer for that matter, right? But the point is that a point comes in your life when you see that life is directing you towards a particular path that aligns more with what gives you joy, and saying that it's also very altruistic and it's also solving problem for other people. So the most important thing is to now see, looking from hindsight, what has been, how has life been, what are those experiences leading us to, and how can we use those experiences to solve problem for other people. So I think that's a way I think I might be able to answer that question. Yes, I'm still practicing law, but what I see as what gives me joy, what fulfills me in life is this work that we are doing to help bring relief to vulnerable people in terms of food security, and also saying that for me, I didn't have a good share of having good food growing up.
Good. Because I was just going to come to that to
Yeah,
ask about
so
if there was a personal experience, if there was
yeah,
something you saw
yeah.
that then triggered that, oh, this problem, I believe.
Oh yes. Oh yes, of course there were. Like you don't get to choose. You can choose your job, you can choose your partner, but the family you are born into, you
Yes.
don't choose it. And
Yes.
I'm very grateful to God for the family that, I was born into. It's kind of a bit challenging, but of course prepared me for the journey, right? Going to school on empty stomach, um, and times where we struggled to feed, it was such a challenge, right? But the thing is that um, we kind of, I kind of continue because myself, my siblings, I started fending for myself at the age of 6.
Wow.
So, and what that meant was that concentrating in class became a problem. Um, Seeing a very bright future was also kind of challenging as a child. So what you would then really focus on would be, how can I survive? How can we survive? Right? But what happens is that such experiences build resilience and makes you connect with whatever path God is preparing for you to follow. So sometimes, so in as much as time might not permit me to go into the nitty-gritty of what those experiences look like and how one is able to navigate through it.
Yes.
Right. But the most important thing is that I mentioned earlier, looking at benefit of hindsight, what has been the journey and how were you able to come out of that journey, and how can you use that journey to help lift other people. That is what's the most important part of it. So for me, my background as a legal practitioner and what we are doing to help bridge the hunger gap, has a strong connection, strong connection and a strong sense of why, one should continue to do.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. Two things that struck me for what you shared. One is compassion. That's what your experience has driven or birthed out of you. Another is a quote that you unintentionally said: you cannot see a bright future on an empty stomach. That's exactly what you just said. Wow, that's powerful. So now, narrowing it down to the food bank initiative, for someone who is hearing that for the first time, what does the food bank initiative do? What is it about?
So the food bank initiative is, I would say we use the integrated food banking system, right, to curb food waste, and also we help improve the nutrition of pregnant women and children. We also serve as a frontline agency assisting those struggling with hunger and malnutrition. And we do this across more than 170 communities. But to put it in simple terms, the food bank warehouses food, collects food from individuals, food processing company, warehouses it, and then redistributes it to those in need, right? Also leverages on collaborative partnership, individual buy-in, corporate buy-in, to galvanize resources and have them transfer it to those that I need. Like, it's just as simple as as that. And then we do that also trying to curb food waste. A whole lot of food is going to waste in the midst of hunger. And what do we do as an organization? We capture those surplus food, and then we redirect them to those in need, and it nourishes them. It meets their need, and yeah, we are solving a big problem, and it's also helping to restore our planet.
Amazing. That's right. That's pretty interesting, because I was going to then follow up and ask about how many people you have been able to reach. You said 170, over 170 communities.
Yeah.
And what have their testimonials been about your impact?
Their stories are really, really, it's the story of an average Nigerian, that doesn't know what's where the next meal will come from, or someone, and it's a story, like I said, I can connect with, So when these beneficiaries share their stories as to, oh, I'm coming all the way from Ikorodu. I borrowed transport money from my neighbor, but I'm told that when I get to this place, I'll get registered, and I have hope that I'll be called to come collect food someday. So, and then some, maybe when they are called to then come and pick up their food boxes, they still say the same thing. Oh, I just had to find a way here.
Wow.
This is the only hope I have. As I'm taking it home, my children are going to be very happy that we have something to sustain us for a time.
Wow.
So the point is that that aspect of bringing hope, giving hope to people, plays a very significant aspect of in a cohesive society. When hope is lost in any society, people do the unimaginable, and we have to keep hope alive by such interventions that would make people know that, yes, though God is not physically present with us, but he has people
yes,
that he uses to answer
other people's
return prayers. Yeah,
that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Thank you so much. So other than the distribution of food to those who are vulnerable, what other programs are under the food bank initiative?
Yeah, so there are several programs. There's one that really appeals a whole lot to me. Is our nutrition program, where we work with primary healthcare centers to identify malnourished children. There is a story of a particular one that a woman who gave birth to a child, but died at the point of delivery, and then the mother took on the taking care of that child, but because of that gap, the child became malnourished. The mother didn't, the grandmother of the child now, of course, didn't have steady means of income. A whole lot of issues happened, and the child became malnourished. So the neighbors around, called the baby all kinds of names. Like, the point is that the mother died while giving birth to you, and then you are looking like there's something, looks very sick and emaciated. So they kind of stigmatized that baby. And then the grandmother was not always happy seeing the baby. So there was a day the baby was coughing so hard, and then she felt, what can be worse than this? She didn't have food. The baby was almost going to die, and she was afraid that she didn't want to lose the baby just like they lost the mother. Then she decided that, okay, let me go to a nearby primary healthcare center. She went there, and then they signposted her to Lagos Food Bank, because we always tell them, the PHCs is not designed to give food to these people. They only give an intervention, but how would they be able to sustain the food they buy for these babies to keep them out of that state of malnutrition? They signposted that child to Lagos Food Bank, and then we took the vitals and did, with the help of our nutritionist, of course.
Okay.
And then within 2 months, a baby that was weighing 4 point something, right, that was like 1 year old. A 1 year old shouldn't be weighing that, right? And then the mark was, I can't remember now, but the baby was really emaciated, and so it was in 2 months this baby came back. Our color came out fine. Everything was pretty good because of the help and intervention of our nutritionist. But one thing is so important here is that there are some interventions that if they are not done at the first 1,000 days of a child's this thing, it impairs on their cognitive abilities, and then they are not productive as a young adult. So it's something that an intervention that needs that is so urgent at critical for that brain development. So, and then we realized this and we started working with PACs. Anytime you find any baby like this, please just bring them to us. We will undertake everything from that moment. And then what we realize is that most of the time these babies are malnourished because of poverty. Nothing more, no fundamental underlying issues or health issues, just poverty. And when they have access to constant supply of food, their real color and their body weight, everything comes out to life, and they are salvaged at that time. So there's no how I can describe that program unless telling that story. So I'm sure it gives a bit of light to what the program looks like.
It does.
Right?
It does.
So another program is the family farming program. We call it the backyard farming program. How do you ensure that people feed themselves sustainably, right? We can only get you to a point, but for you to sustainably stay out of hunger, you have to be a contributor to that fact. So we empower them, train them on how to start a backyard farm on poultry, vegetable, and snail. And then thereafter, they're able to, we also give them feed for the chickens, right? And then, so they carry it on themselves.
I like that program because it's dual prong. Feed yourself, and then also produce for the community.
Earn income as well. So they produce for the community, they earn income. And other programs like the temporary food assistance program that I mentioned about, like the box that serves a family of 5, for 2 weeks, and that gives them hope. Another program that helps type 2 diabetes needs program. People are living with diabetes but don't even have the resources to maintain the type of food that's been prescribed to them. Another program that places people on job so that they can earn some income for themselves and then and feed their family. So what we just do is to harness their skills and then connect their skills with the markets. You have come to collect food as a woman, but your husband can drive but doesn't have the market for the job. What is the skill of your husband? Let us help you advertise it. So we'll put that out there. People who need services get, so we are able to get that kind of beneficiary out of the hunger line. So interesting programs that helps solve the problem of hunger, SDG 2. So in as much as we have used a different multidimensional ways to solve this problem, right, we still stay true to that core thing, ensuring that people are able to feed and doing so sustainably.
Zero hunger. Thank you so much for sharing, sir. So just delving straight into our topic for today, which is about teamwork and delegation. I want to ask your earliest interaction with a team. I know that, of course, you have worked with over 25,000 volunteers, and I'm sure it didn't start from one day. So what was your trajectory into teamwork, team building, delegation? You obviously started as a founder, so at some point you needed to delegate to people. What was that journey like, and how was the trajectory of teams in your organization, especially for nonprofit?
Okay, so I'll start like this, right? The journey, I'll take it a bit back, in the sense that for you to, be an entrepreneur, you must first start from being an intrapreneur, right? Where you are currently working, how do you exhibit or exhume that qualities or the quality of an entrepreneur? We would know, right? For me, the journey started from where I was working. I took ownership. I was always interested in how would things work out. I didn't even know the journey, right? Well, I just knew that I needed anything I'm doing, I must do it well. I have to take ownership for it. I take responsibility. I accept myself. I sacrifice.
You think like the CEO.
As the CEO, as the owner of the business, right? And then coming out of it, I saw that all those helped me because it was then easy for me to work with people. It was easy for me to delegate. It was easy. I built my leadership competencies as an entrepreneur in a business that was in mind. So taking it further, I started working with volunteers. Starting a food bank, you barely even have the money to take care of yourself, and then you now have a big vision like a food bank. How do you start? The idea, and then convincing people to work with you. Now we didn't start paying salary, we worked with volunteers. So what that meant was that I then needed to, I held these meetings with volunteers who we hold it every second Saturday of the month, doing strategy for Lagos Food Bank. And I tell them, say, this is purely volunteering work, but we need your expertise to come on board to do this. And then we did that for like 2 years.
Wow.
Working with just volunteers, no salaries. But what that helped us to do is that for every penny we got, we were able to plow it back into the food bank. So every money, so it reduced administration, it reduced the number of things for us, and it made the work become a bit obvious at that early stage. So now going to the question, delegation, working with people, working with we. So I just had to mention the fact that I would say they were a team, right? But they were more of, volunteering to strategize, to support, to do some work virtually outside their own, 9 to 5. And when it was now time to get the first employee, start paying salaries, then the journey began again. And then we continued from there. So I would say that, yes, being an entrepreneur, identifying where you are at the time and saying that, where you are, like, what are you able to, first of all, even set up a team to start with, a paid team, and then how are you able to convince or inspire volunteers to work with you and buy into the vision and then move forward, delegating, allowing them to take ownership. The point I realized at the beginning was that everybody has this, this thing in them. They want to be needed. They want to feel a vacuum. They see a vacuum. The vacuum is there. Have them fill it up and feel appreciated for filling up that vacuum. So my job as a leader was identifying several vacuums. And as you are coming in and I'm telling you as a volunteer, this is a vacuum I want you to fill. This is what are the clear objectives we want from you, right? And making it quite clear. So the person takes ownership from that point and says, you are taking responsibility for this. And they swing into it and they give reports, right? So we hold ourselves accountable. And I must say that it was a journey at that early stage. And, it transcended into, I would say it was formed the foundation for what, food bank is today.
It's amazing what you just said. Everyone has, I believe it's a drive for purpose.
Yeah.
Because human beings are created as solutions to themselves. So one person identifies a problem. Most likely the problem you have identified is what you have already been sent to solve. And everybody wants to find expression in that regard of solving that. And then the onus is then upon the leader to sell that vision in line with his strengths. Which leads me to my next question of how did you succeed in matching strengths to roles in a team? Because I believe that eventually translates to the overall business, organization goal. So how did you succeed in doing that?
Okay, so for me, I think even till this time, I still get to interface with everybody that comes into the organization. In as much there's a system that interviews, that does all of that, and but before you eventually come in, you still get to meet with me.
Okay.
So having spoken with you, we get to converse for at least 30 minutes. What I'm trying to do, I'm asking you all kinds of questions. I'm then trying to see from the questions I'm asking you, I'm able to tell. Of course, we have an idea the roles we want to fill. But as I'm talking to you, I'm already trying to see if, based on your conversation, you fit into that role or other roles you might probably fit into. But what we do is we try as much as possible to, have people come in by way of an internship. You come in, let's be a bit flexible. Let's even see where, things fall into. We do some trial and error and all of that. And then eventually we find your strengths. Okay. Just like I want every business owner to understand, if you're starting out, you might not be able to afford all this big experienced hire thing. You just start with people and then have the ability to identify the potential in them and then bring them out using the problems that you have that they have themselves. So for us, it was quite easy because it was just a 3 months journey or 6 months as the case may be, and we're able to identify that at the end of that program we already know where you're headed. So it all started from that way, and it's, people are able to, especially young people who are just starting their career, are able to find expression that way, and 90% of the time we got it right. 90%. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So I want to talk a little bit about delegation. And when being self-employed, one usually gets to do everything themselves. So they're running finance themselves, they're probably running legal themselves, running operations themselves. But when a team comes into play, then delegation has to follow suit. How was that experience for you? How did you get comfortable, especially understanding that, from amongst other things, one is trust. If I'm delegating to this person, can this person do this thing in a way that I would do it? Another, which is also closely related, is competence. Will he do it as well, or she do it as well as I would do it? Can I trust this person to deliver? How did you manage that?
Okay, so I would say that was one of the things that is a fear of an average entrepreneur. A startup person. As you're starting up, you're doing almost everything yourself, and you've done it in a particular way. But now having to let go of those things and trusting people that you are going to do it in a particular way, as in maybe a way that kind of aligns to an extent to the way you do it, or aligns with the vision of the organization. So for me, what I would say is that I tell my team members, for me, and slightly above average is a success for me. Right? You must get to a point where you have to let go to go up. Right?
You have to let go to go up.
And the point is that even if you don't want to let go, circumstances sometimes
will force you
to let go. Right? And that happens but you don't want the situation to control you. You want to control the narrative and start being more proactive, and what happens is that, and what I learned in several ways, and what I realized was that making the instruction as clear as possible, and guiding the people through, or the person who has been delegated. Because how do we even take delegation? Delegation is not where you immediately form the orga. No. When you delegate, you are not letting go outrightly. You still have to kind of
shared responsibility,
continue to follow up and see whether this thing is still being done, so you don't get surprised by the outcome if you just let go and then believe that everything is fine. But you have to guide the person through and make sure that this person is getting to a point of independence, right? Depending on the level of experience. But I would say that founders, business owners, startup, social entrepreneurs, there's this thing about the founder syndrome. I'm the one that knows how to do it best. It's only me that can do it this particular way. If it's not done this way, it can't be the way. But the point is that, like I said, we have to, let go of some things, trust the person, build that person's confidence. Like, I'm allowing you, I'm giving this to you, I've been the one doing it, and this is a track record. I'm trusting you to do this thing, and I believe that you will not let me down. I always say that. So it's, and that person, of course, takes that responsibility, takes that, this man has confidence in me, I don't want to. But there are instances where mistakes are made as well. But the point is that it must be done in such a way that, you still kind of supervise to an extent, so that such mistakes coming out of delegation do not outright
reduce the margin of error. Amazing. So just speaking about that, what then is, or how crucial is communication in teamwork and delegation?
Okay, so communication, I would say, is the bedrock of every organization. It's a bedrock. In fact, in family, in marriage, in in a social enterprise, you know, um, the communication has to be clear. The And communication is not just verbal communication now. It goes down to the the job descriptions. It goes down to the KPIs. It goes down to some people want to do the right thing, but they don't even know how.
They're not clear.
How clear to do it. So there are ways in which we can open channels of communication in such a way that if I'm seated here and sometimes I want to take a decision on behalf of the organization, but I'm just too lazy to stand up to go and ask, oh, there are plenty of people in front of my line manager now, and I need to send this email, but I need to be sure if this is going to be okay. The fact that there's an intercom that just makes you call that other table to say, oh, I'm about to do X, Y, Z.
What do you think?
What do you think about this? And I said, wait, don't send it yet. We are, that helps. There must be tools within to help enhance communication, to reduce the number of errors that's been made. And then what happens again is there has to be investment in such tools, because communication must be keep flowing to avoid all kinds of issues that might happen. And then how accessible are the maybe line managers or the founder or the business enterprise owner and the rest of it? How accessible? So I tell my team members, don't give an excuse for me. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm accessible. Don't say you are busy. I'm not busy. Wait for me. I'll be fine. Come and meet me.
Right.
If there is anything that you need to find out, don't make that excuse for me. Right. Go ahead. Come and meet me. I will explain it to you.
So what tools have helped your organization stay efficient in operations?
Oh yeah. So tools like emails. Our emails are, everybody will commute by email. Email for me is number one, followed by maybe WhatsApp. But email is the priority because it keeps
a track record of
and then anybody can dig up information later and then get how it's been done. It also creates templates. I try as much as possible to reduce the use of WhatsApp, but of course for some general informal communication is fine. But email is number one, and it's been really helpful because you can send it anytime. You can send email at any time. But WhatsApp, you might not be able to do that at any time. But email, anytime you can send it. The person can wake up at any time to read it. It doesn't show whether read receipt or not read receipt. Just send it anytime you feel like sending your email. For me, and I think that has been helpful for the team as well. Verbal communication, written communication, WhatsApp, emails. So those tools
open
are
lines
helpful.
of communication. Amazing. So other than communication, what other skill sets, what other ingredients are necessary for building a successful team, a team that achieves its goals? What other key ingredients, skill sets, soft or hard?
Well, in terms of for me, building a team requires a whole lot of this collaboration, right? Ownership, taking responsibility, knowing that you are also responsible for the outcome of your decisions, what you do, saying that there is a level of trust that is being like I tell my team members, any form of delegation comes with a trust, right? And trust is not just about, oh, I trust you. No, it's about how you carry on your activities, right? And what has been your antecedent, your track record. How do you do your things? That increases the level of trust, right? So it's not just built like that, but your constant effort in trying to make things work and doing it in a particular manner builds trust. So I say, you are handling this project, it's a matter of trust. What comes out of it, you are the one that controls that narrative. So you take ownership for it, and then everybody's of course able to work collaboratively And what also helps us is the fact that um, we tell I oftentimes communicate in the sense that I tell you everybody's a leader. You are leading, you are influencing, you are either what you do, the next colleague is watching you, you are either positively influencing that
Or
colleague or
negatively.
so
Yeah.
in building a team, you have to be mission driven.
Mm.
How are you interested in what we are doing? To what extent do you buy into the vision? Do you have any form of connection to this thing we are doing? If you are not enthusiastic about it, there's a little or very high tendency that you might not want
Disconnected.
to
Yeah.
give your extra,
Yeah.
to it, or you might actually not want to go, overboard or extra mile to get things done. So, to what extent are you mission driven? Are you interested in what we are doing? And I always say that, say, in as much as we cannot control that aspect, if you are in Lagos Food Bank, you have to an extent buy into what we are doing, because it takes compassion, it takes enthusiasm, it takes a whole lot sacrifice, right, to do what we are doing. So if it's not there, you will struggle, right? And I always say that from time to time, and they understand to that extent.
Amazing. So now that you say that, how have you been able to motivate? Because I'm sure there are people who maybe have joined.
Oh yes.
And they lost motivation, especially if the impact that they hoped to see is somewhat delayed for some reason or the other. How have you motivated them through season? I'm sure some people have also left.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So how have you managed that?
Oh yes. So in terms of motivation, right? The way I say it is, as a leader, your job, of course, is continue to sell the vision to your team members. The team members, on the other hand, must also learn to self-motivate to an extent, right? And what we also do is that if I see the real-time impact of your work, right, what you've done, I try as much as possible to, talk about it during meetings. Make sure that I'm, consciously making efforts to celebrate you in front of other team members, because there are days that those things might not be good, but the days they are good, I make sure that because we want that validation. Everybody want that level of, yes, I'm doing something, and what I'm doing is making value to the organization. Sometimes it's beyond money. Sometimes I've seen instances where even organizations where monies are really high, people still transition.
Yes.
Right. But what we do to an extent to manage such is that the level of connection, the leader will try his best, but when you are connected to it, it is not about the money now. It's about the fact that you are seeing the value in what you are doing, and you are seeing it in real time.
Money is actually an extrinsic motivator.
Extrinsic. Yeah. The thing is, I even remember that I collected this particular tool from I forgotten her name. She assisted me. She used to be here. It was this career motivators. It's part of what I use, in this recruitment, and I like a survey.
Okay.
And everybody, as you're coming in, you have to feel, what are your career motivators? What actually value more to you? What is it? Is it time? Is it
recognition?
Is it? That has been so helpful. We sit down with it and analyze. This person's career motivator is recognition. So in anything, even the little one, try and put it out. If you miss it, you've missed it. So we take our time to review all of these things and see what matters more to different people.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I would just like to ask, this is the second to the last question. In managing these teams, of course, there are people who have come from different backgrounds, different exposures, different experiences, even people of different age range. How have you been able to manage conflict, understanding that these people they approach things differently, they work differently, they have a mindset that is not uniform? So how have you been able to manage these differences in teams?
Oh yes. So for I believe that of course, we have the HR that gets to do all of that,
Okay.
and the work of the HR, of course, would, when such differences happen, see how you can mediate, see how you can, you know, bring manage such emotions, basically. But from my own end, what I would say is that um there are instances where, of course, there's been all kinds of emotions, maybe coming out of stress or out of, we have to know where is it coming from. Do we all, first of all, calm down and see how we can best manage the situation, and then come back to it and see whether you will still be act the same way, you know. And in every society, in every group, conflicts are bound to happen. It now depends on how it's being managed and what is the threshold of what is tolerable, right? And what is manageable, what is expected, and how can we manage it, basically. So for us, it's more of taking time to evaluate the situation, coming back to the issue and seeing, and just managing it. But there are several ways. There are some I'm involved in, there are some I'm not involved in, and the HR, of course, does an excellent job in managing such, and there are some that comes to my table and I just look for a way to just laugh it off and let everybody just be, everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for all you have shared. Just before I do a recap and share key points, I'd just like to ask to the intending social entrepreneur and the one who is at the early stage of their social enterprise, what would be your final thoughts to them in terms of team building, in terms of collaboration, delegation, in terms of building effective teams for efficiency in their business? What would be your final thoughts to them?
I'll say that my final thought is, first, there's how far you can go if you are working alone. If you really, really want to go far, you have to work in a team. And the work of every leader is to broker talents, leverage strengths of different people, and saying that this weakness of one is the strength of the other one. Saying, leveraging those strengths and skill sets and brokering it in such a way that it drives towards one ultimate goal. So communication is key aspect of of everything. Communication and collaboration, and also being, let everybody have this sense of belonging to and most importantly, right, for me, is your team cannot go as far, they tap from your energy, right? You can't say, hey, do XYZ, and you are not making efforts to do that, right? Everybody's kind of watching and saying, what are you asking me to do, Hannah? So you have to also be the one that gives that exudes that energy.
That's so
right? So it's going to go a whole long way in driving a successful enterprise.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so powerful. Thank you so much. So that's a powerful point. So the leader is the thermostat for the team. Gosh, that's so powerful.
it's important.
That's so powerful. So you can have a drive, you can have a passion, you can have an idea, a concept, and still be the person limiting how far that thing comes to life.
Oh yes. That's
wow. You will not take anything from what we have talked about so far. Please take that.
Yeah.
And it just puts the spotlight on the founder, the entrepreneur, the initiator of constant. It puts that responsibility of constant evolvement, of constantly evolving, constantly improving oneself.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing all of these insights.
Very well.
Dear viewers, social entrepreneur, thank you so much for connecting. Just before we go, I'd like you to leave your comments. Leave your comments in the chat box. Leave your feedback. Whatever thing that struck you, please type it there. And if you did enjoy this video, please share it to someone who can benefit from it, so that the person will not say you did not do anything for the person, as we say on the street. But please share it. But I'd like to say and share some things that stood out here. One is take ownership for where you are. Our guest speaker did share about how he started leading teams from managing another person's business. And that's the skill that's translated to his own business when he eventually started his social enterprise, the Lagos Food Bank Initiative. And so I encourage us to take ownership. Another thing he said is you have to let go to go up. You eventually have to delegate. You cannot do everything yourself. There was something strong that you mentioned, the founder syndrome. And that is a fallacy. You cannot do everything yourself. Don't get to the point where you are overwhelmed before you begin to delegate. And you delegate horizontally. That's another thing I took out from what you said. You delegate horizontally before you begin to delegate vertically. And that's so powerful. Another is leave open lines of communication. Be accessible. Be accessible at all times. And then I also took this away, which is the last one, and it's the strongest point for me. The founder can limit the extent to which a team can go. So the onus is on us founders and you founders and social entrepreneurs to constantly evolve, challenge yourselves, to learn new things and grow in what you have committed yourself to. But I want to leave us with this quote by Anonymous. What you have heard is only half as powerful as what you do with what you have heard. So please highlight your key takeaway points and just put it to practice. Just put it to practice. It has worked for our guest speaker, Dr. Michael Sunbola, and I'm sure it's a principle that is replicable. So please put to practice what you have heard. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and sharing of yourself. It's a privilege and an honor to host you. My name once again is Oroluwa Akinsoya. I will encourage you to please like, share, subscribe to Leap Africa page if you haven't, and make sure you share with at least one person who is within your social entrepreneurship network. Till next time, it's bye for now.